Hello everyone and welcome back to Case Me a Christmas Card for 2024. This is Michelle Lupton and I'm really happy to be back after taking a break last year. And I want to thank my guest for today, Ardyth, for actually surprising me last year with a wonderful Instagram party of Case Me a Christmas Card creations while I couldn't do it last year. Anyway, let's get started on today's card. So today I am casing a card from Ardyth and I'll show you that card in just a minute. But to start off with, I have just got a piece of white cardstock and I'm using a piece of Post-it tape here right across the middle. And yes, I do realise at this point that it is slightly crooked. That's okay. I'm going to cut it down a bit later on. And I have taken out the Festive Poinsettia stamp set from Syberia. This was released last year, I think, maybe the year before. I can't remember. But it's just the most stunning, huge, big poinsettia stamp, and I just love it. So I've masked off a little strip in the middle of the card and I'm going to be stamping the poinsettia in Hero Art's intensified black ink right over the top of that masking tape. And I'm making sure I press right over, and you can see it didn't really stamp very well right on the edge of that masking tape. You get a little sort of shadow around it, so I'm making sure that I push really firmly right on the edge of that, and there you go, it's a lot better now. All right, so now that I've done that, I'm just going to heat set that ink because I am going to be stenciling over the top of it and I don't want the black ink to run into my colourful inking. So just zapping it a little bit with my heat tool on either side, and then we'll keep on moving. I'm not removing the masking tape just yet. Now this is the card that I am casing today from Ardyth, and you can see that she's used floral. She's got a masked area in the middle and she's done some multicoloured stenciling of those flowers, but she's left the leaves white or black outline with white. So that's some of the features that I'm including in my card for today. So my card is going to be fairly similar to hers. I took a bit of a shortcut because Ardyth actually created her own stencil for her card, but I've got a pre-made one from Syberia. This layering stencil goes perfectly with the Festive Poinsettia stamp set. All right, so I wanted my poinsettia to be primarily red, so I'm starting with Abandoned Coral ink from a Distress Oxide ink. And I'm using my ink blending brushes from Hero Arts to just add some of the red all over my poinsettia. And now I'm going in with some dried marigold and I'm just going to go near the outer edges of the poinsettia and making them a little bit orange. And then I'm adding some Seedless preserves and I'm going to add that towards the centre of the poinsettia. Now keeping in mind that a lot of the centre of the poinsettia is actually masked off on my card, so I sort of had to push it out a little bit more than I probably would have if the whole poinsettia was there. And then I'm going to add the second layer, and I debated exactly what to do with this one. I thought, oh, do I go in with exactly the same pattern of inking as I did on the first layer? And you can see I almost did, but then I changed my mind and I thought I'm just going to go over the whole thing with the Abandoned Coral and just see what it looks like. And I might then decide to add some more of the Seedless preserves in the centre or not. And I lifted it up and I liked what I saw, so I just left that second layer with the Abandoned Coral. Now I'm going into the centre of this poinsettia with the same pattern. I'm going to go all over it with the Abandoned Coral and then add a little bit of the dried marigold to the edges of those, well, they're not technically petals. I know, I'm a pedant, I'm a science teacher at heart. They're not petals, they're bracts. Yeah, science nerd right here. And a little bit of the Seedless Preserves right in the very centre. So same pattern, and then I'm going to go over the top with the Abandoned Coral again. So exactly the same pattern on the inner part of the poinsettia as the outer part of the poinsettia. Now, not a heap of these smaller parts of the poinsettia are actually showing because a lot of the middle is masked off, but I didn't want to miss those little bits. Okay, so at this point, I'm thinking, do I want to add any more colour or do I not? Trying to decide, and then I decided, no, I think I'm done. So I'm going to lift up that masking and just see where I'm at this stage. And I decided, no, I didn't want to add any more inking, but I do need to add my little banner in the middle of the card to match with Ardyth's card. So I masked off the centre, and now I've pulled out Broken China Distress Oxide ink, one of my favourite Distress Oxide inks. And I'm not going in very, very heavily with the Broken China, but enough, basically. But not really, really heavy inking there. All right, now I remove the masking and I've got my base layer of my card all done. Now I needed to decide what kind of sentiment I wanted to add. Now in Ardyth's card, she had a die cut sentiment in the middle, so I pulled out this Christmas die from Hero Arts, and this is from the Christmas Words Fancy Die set. It has 4 different word dies. It also has the shadow layer around those word dies, but I didn't use that today. I've also pulled out this pierced rectangle die set from Paper Rose, and I'm die cutting that layer so that I've got a border around the outside of that panel. Now on Ardyth's card, she just had her panel right on top of her white card base. So it was basically a white on white border. But I decided a bit later on that I wanted to add a little bit more colour. But right now I'm just adding tiny little bits of this liquid glue to the back of my die cut, and then I'll be able to add that on top of the blue sort of stripe in the middle of the card. So I'm using art glitter glue here with the really, really fine tip. Makes it really easy to add to backs of word dies especially. And just so that my fingers don't get in the way, I'm using my tweezers and just holding it in place there with my paperweight until it dries. Now, I wasn't quite sure which sub-sentiment to add here. I was originally thinking I'd do Merry Christmas, but I changed my mind because I wanted the sub-sentiment to go underneath the word die. So I actually pulled out some little they're not pre-done, I did them myself, but I have them in a little bag all ready to go. They're Christmas sentiment strips from Hero Arts, and I just, every so often I'll just stamp and emboss and cut out a whole heap of these sentiments, and I just keep them in little Ziploc bags in a drawer. So they're always ready to go when I want them. All right, right now I'm just measuring this panel because I was thinking of also measuring the blue panel that I'm going to be putting underneath it, which is Hero Hue's Mist cardstock. But then I thought, I'm just going to eyeball it. So I just plonked my panel on top of the blue and then just eyeballed it because I couldn't be bothered measuring it out really carefully. Oh dear. Oh well. Anyway, all turned out fine. So all I'm going to do now is to adhere that panel to my base. And I always admire people who think ahead and like do some die cutting out of the middle of their matte panels, but I never think about it at the time. I really need to think more carefully about how I do things so that I'm not wasting all that precious, precious cardstock. All right, now just to finish off, I decided I needed just a teeny little bit of bling. So I've pulled out these little embellishments from Trinity Stamps. These are called Bubble Blowout, and they're my favourite because they're just gives a little bit of shine there, but not overpowering. It doesn't sort of bling in your face. It's just a tiny little bit of shine there, and it's elegant. But it is nice to add a little bit of shine to a Christmas card, isn't it? All right, so again, I'm using my fine tip of my liquid glue and just putting teeny tiny little blobs of glue underneath those, and there my card is done. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching and joining me for card 1 of 2024's Case Me a Christmas card series. I hope you follow along on my blog and Instagram and some extra videos on my YouTube channel. Bye.